for board exams, the Central University Common Entrance Test or CUET is here. What is this? Well, in order to arrest the horrific trend of skyrocketing cutoffs for admissions to undergraduate courses in universities across India, the government has announced that admissions to 45 UGC-funded central universities will now be exclusively through a Central University Entrance Test or a computerized common entrance test, okay, or CUET. So, will the headlines that scream about 100% cutoffs for college admissions now be a thing of the past? Does this solution address the problem it seeks to solve, or are we just adding one more entrance test to our education system? Now, as a major reform, the CUET will have far-reaching ramifications on our higher education ecosystem. The CUET is going to decide the fate of approximately 1.3 crore students who vie for about 5.4 lakh undergraduate seats in 45 universities. The system comes into effect this year. The examination will be conducted in the first week of July after the Class 12 two board exams. And because it matters to you, it is our focus on We the People tonight. I want to start with the UGC chairperson, Jagdish Kumar. I spoke with him a short while ago. Mr. Kumar, thank you for your time on a Sunday. You've announced some big bag reforms, of course. Why does the UGC believe this to be a game changer?
Sarah, just to put things in the correct perspective, let me give some information to your viewers. You see, during last half a century, use of the entrance tests, particularly for admissions in the undergraduate programs, has become a global phenomenon.
Yes.
Whether it is USA, England, Australia, New Zealand. In fact, China conducts one of the largest entrance tests in the world. About 1.1 crore students participate in the entrance test in China. So having said that, you see, entrance tests for college admissions are a reality.
Yeah.
And basically in entrance tests, we believe that the subjective bias is removed and the selections are made in a very, very objective manner, because in these tests, the analytical skills and the critical thinking, the comprehensive understanding, and the language skills of the applicants are tested. And back home in India, we also have some of the well-known entrance tests, such as the NEET and the JEE. Now, coming back to CUET, CUET is not a new phenomenon at all, because since 2010 or so, during last more than 10 years, 14 central universities are conducting a common entrance test.
Yeah.
And many other central universities, such as JNU, Hyderabad Central University, BHU, they all conduct their own online MCQ kind of entrance tests.
Yeah.
And in national education policy, it is advocated that we should remove this multiplicity of the entrance tests and have one single entrance test, so that students do not have to go through the difficulties of writing multiple entrance tests. So the introduction of CUET by the UGC, we can clearly see that instead of writing the entrance test conducted by 14 central universities, JNU, HCU, and BHU, students can now write one single entrance test, which is CUET. And that's the reason why we have introduced CUET.
But Mr. Kumar, critics point out that this is just more of the same wine in a new bottle. The Tamil Nadu Assembly has already passed a resolution urging the union government to withdraw the CUET. You have the Chief Minister saying that the CUET is just like NEET under a different name, and it's just going to give a push to coaching centers.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. But let's all work for an alternative system. If you want to replace an entrance test by some other means, please explain to me. If there is such an ideal system, we all can adopt. In the absence of any such ideal system, all over the globe, we use these entrance tests for undergraduate programs.
Why do we need another ideal system? I mean, the question is, you have the university admission system that is, we know, riddled with very high admission cutoffs. But is this the solution? Does it have to be so radical? Could we not have first, or should we not have first reformed the current system, the assessment, the corrected why we have these inflation of scores, instead of, in a sense, throwing out the baby with the bathwater? You've dumped the board exams for university admissions, and now you've replaced them with one entrance test that doesn't really seem to change much.
Sarah, I think you are right on the spot. All along during, many decades, we started believing that the end result of the school education is achieving very high scores, which is not true. Actually, the students must be focusing on becoming learners. They should be trained to learn, relearn, and unlearn. But unfortunately, our focus was on achieving very high scores. And this is the time now for us to relook into the way we educated and motivated our students to become high scorers. So what I believe is that if the pressure of getting 99% or 100% cutoffs, if they are removed from the minds of the students, they now have the opportunity to focus on becoming good learners. Because how does it matter whether I get 82% or 87% as long as I'm a good learner?
But does this actually solve that problem? Let's just go across to Abha Dev Habib. She's an associate professor of the physics department of Miranda House, former member of the executive council, and we also have Professor Raghavendra P. Tiwari, vice chancellor of the Central University of Punjab, Bhatinda, joining us, and Sudha Acharya, principal of the ITL Public School, chairperson of the National Progressive Schools Conferences, which is a consortium of over 400 private schools of Delhi. But Abha Dev Habib, to you first. You have these mind-boggling cutoff marks, no longer a nightmare for students. Instead, you have an entrance test that promises to judge them only on the basis of their aptitude. Too good to be true. What are your concerns? Ma'am, just unmute. I think you're still muted.
Sarah, thanks for this program, this discussion. There are twofold questions we need to ask. First is that, is this the right time to declare a new policy when the students were working towards their board exams? And this class 12th is a special batch because their entire studies of 10+2 have happened in an online mode. Now, given the heterogeneous situation which exists in the schooling already, and topped up with this problem of pandemic, we know that, no government agency really took care that the education was really happening. Now, somehow these students are coping up and are ready to take board exams. And we see that instead of allowing them to do that, a new scheme is announced. And now students, I was reading Indian Express today where students are now making excuse and they don't even want to take board exams. So this is what will happen. Also, is it the time enough for information to reach to all parents and students, but about first generation learners? So that is my first question, and I think this is not the right time. Students look at 10+2 together, they look at their strengths, they organize their future based on their strengths. So this is first. The second is that you are saying that, high cutoff. The same high cutoff on the basis of board exams are going to now translate into high percentiles, high scores in the CUET, which will lead to many more students stuck with the high percentile. So the problem is going to remain the same as long as you do not increase
really.
The number of seats.
If you don't increase this, demand supply continues to be. All right, Professor Tiwari, you've been part of an initial committee, trying to figure this new system out when CUET was CUCET. But I just want to ask you, Professor, I feel like we're back to square one. When I was in school, where you had this make or break big board exam that put a lot of psychological pressure on students. You had to perform on that one day, right? The rest of the year didn't matter. How you did on that day mattered. We went through this catharsis then over the next, decade, this supposed internal cleansing of the system. We said schools will have unit tests every week so that you're assessed throughout the year. And then here we are, yet again, it seems like we're back to square one. one entrance test. It's not called the boards, it's just now called the CUET, where again, like when I was in school, we were, you know, class 12, you couldn't go for any birthday parties, any shadis, no nothing. You would just sit at home and mug all the time. Has anything changed?
Yeah. See, madam, I would like, before I actually answer the question, I would like to make some submissions. You know, 14 central universities, you see, 14 central universities have already been conducting CUET since 2015 successfully. We were conducting our own. Our university was one of those, 14 central universities. And last year also we conducted, but last year the change was that this was conducted by NDTV. So this is not new experiment in India, number one. And number two, it has never proliferated, this coaching and all, because 2015, now it is 7 years. This is going to be the seventh time that this CUET will be conducted. Now it would be on big, larger canvas where we will have all the central universities mandatorily for the UG program, and for PG program it is optional. So this is number one. Number two, Ministry of Education and University Grants Commission has been preparing for this. It was to be held last year itself, and it was on the debate. It was published in the newspapers. So, so it is not abruptly that we are implementing this year abruptly. Now, the other point that you said that, you don't have time, students will not have time to study any other thing, only class 12. And, all the questions and the syllabi for this examination will be only class 12 standard. So, which students have already studied. So, here the idea is to test their general aptitude to learning, whether how they take learning, and whether, whether they have basic aptitude for learning for higher education or not.
Okay, but does it really do that? Sudha Acharya, I want to ask you as a principal, as a teacher, the CUET is based on multiple choice questions, and that's the format, I think. Now, ma'am, as an educationist, can you evaluate students, especially in arts, literature, social sciences that you're studying in class 11 and 12, through a multiple choice question format? Because that doesn't really evaluate reasoning skills, etc. And do you, I'm sorry, let me just ask you, do you think multiple choice questions, this format is designed more for evaluation, for the ease of evaluators, and not really for the students? Because then you can easily evaluate one student A and student B.
You are very true. I think assessing students on the basis of MCQ test, entrance test, it may be feasible for physics, chemistry, biology, or physical sciences. Okay. But to assess a student on the subject domain like psychology, sociology, or history or economics, I don't think it is, we can assess the uniqueness of every child. When we are talking about creative expression, comprehension, exploration, or there is a paradigm shift from content-based to creating, co-creating, designing, or project-based learning, how do you assess children on MCQ basic centric test? In board exam, throughout the year, like you said, in your childhood, you have appeared for multiple unit tests, periodic tests, and all those. These are formative in nature. And we conduct a lot of internal assessment, also a lot of activities. The student is graded throughout the year. So now term 1 exam was based on MCQ or multiple choice kind of questions. Term 2, which is starting from April 26, is subjective, where a child's creative expression, comprehension, understanding, clarity can be assessed. So it may be feasible for physics, chemistry, but in my view, it is not that clearly, we cannot assess children with the subject of sociology, psychology, and so on. So we are not opposing CUET as per se, but it may relieve students from the stress of appearing in multiple entrance tests for various universities. But it is just shifting the stress from one high-stake board exam to another high-stake CUET exam based on same NCERT textbooks. So it is said that it is to bring equity, in my view, equity is actually somewhere compromised.
And I just somehow feel like there's no consistency in our policies, and the students are kind of like these yo-yo balls that keep being experimented upon. And I want to know how this makes teachers feel. Let's try and bring in Mr. Kubad Ahmed Chaudhary. Is a teacher of students of class 12. Mr. Chaudhary, as a teacher, what do you mean? Because how do you feel? I mean, because now admissions are going to be based on the CUET, so not the class 12 exams anymore. So a school education, when you're in class, your students are really not going to be focusing. They just need to get minimum passing marks in boards. I don't even know if they need to get that much. They just need to focus on the CUET. How would you think, does that make your job as a teacher harder in school? Does it make like what they're learning in school less relevant, a lower priority?
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, sure, yes.
Okay, ma'am. First of all, thanks to the NDTV for organizing such a good event. My thought for this particular discussion is that, see, ma'am, this year, especially this academic year, especially CBSE, I'm not talking about the board, state board, but CBSE has organized the term 1 examination. And what we have observed is that in this particular term 1 examination, according to the authentic resources that we have come to know that many of the schools, in most of the schools, some of the discrepancies has happened in this term 1 examination. Even CBSE also admitted that, and because of that also, some of the schools have been under the scanner. Now the question here is that under such circumstances, when the children are getting such a high marks in their term 1 examination, and those students, those were fair enough, they could not able to get the high marks and those were unfair. Now the question arises that what will be the future of those particular children? So as far as that particular, aspect is concerned, I'm quite agree that UGC has made it possible that this particular, common university entrance test must be there. There is no doubt over it as far as the teacher is concerned. The second question that you have put is that whether this will affect the class 12 board children. See, ma'am, because this entire, this particular syllabus that they are provided in the CUET is from the class 12. Now, if the children, they thoroughly go through that particular class 12 board exam, especially the academics and their, the curriculum, then obviously there is nothing to worry about that they will be able to easily crack that particular CUET. As far as that as a teacher is concerned, and I'm 100% sure that in my school, if the children will appear in any of the subject, they can easily done better. There is no doubt of it. But the question here is that only thing that is the question is that UGC needs to, modify it in such a way that as far as my, viewpoint is concerned, that at least they could actually take 50% from the entrance and rest of the 50% from the academic. That would be better. That is the one point that most of this particular, I don't know about the policymakers, what they have thought about that. Yeah. But as far as the teacher is concerned, that I'm personally thinking that a particular children who is putting the effort, 1 year effort is there, because a children who is really working hard and scored 90%, whatever, 95, 99%, that will become irrelevant in front of that particular CUET. So what I personally feel that the UGC and the policymakers should take into consideration of that particular aspect, that 50% marks should be from that particular CUET and 50% marks should be from that particular academic year that particular children has put a lot of effort. That
instead
needs to be counted.
Instead of putting all your eggs in that one basket. But Mr. Jagdish Kumar, what does this mean for the national education policy, the NEP? It was, there was so much of a focus on it. Has that not gotten diluted? Because again, now you're only looking at the syllabus of class 12. We're told you'll be asked questions only based on that. And again, that means you just spend that 1 year mugging that one textbook and nothing else outside of it.
With the introduction of CUET, you don't have to worry about mugging and getting very high scores in your 12th board. Just focus on understanding the concepts, the application of the concepts, and becoming a good learner. I think the days of trying to get very high scores are over with the introduction of CUET. And if you think that CUET will encourage rote learning, I think we are mistaken. The entrance tests have advanced to a greater extent in the recent past, and they will evolve significantly in the coming years also. And these entrance tests will actually bring out the real understanding of these students.
Okay, I'm not sure how exactly this is in sync with the NEP's thrust on critical thinking, inquiry-driven, discovery-oriented, holistic development, on testing children on critical engagement. But let me just bring in some students right now. We have Vedika Nishana, who is in favor of the CUET. She's a class 12 student at Hillwoods Academy. Vedika, so let me ask you, I know you are supportive, but you have NEET for medical colleges, you have JEE for engineering colleges, you have hotel management exam if you want to go into hospitality, you have law school admission test, the LSAT if you want to be a lawyer. Now you'll have another exam for BA, BSc, BCom, etc. How do you feel?
Actually, CUET exam is beneficial.
Okay.
Because somewhere students had pressure that they must score good in 12th exam. Every student wishes to get admission to their preferred university. However, due to immense weightage of class 12 marks, not everybody had equality of opportunity in approaching to their dream universities.
But here also you'll have to sit for an exam.
For CUET.
Here also you'll have to sit for an exam, right?
So that is perfect. If somewhere some student is not good at chemistry and maths, and he or she is interested in physics, so they can work out on their that subject and they can appear for that instead of getting burden of other two subjects also.
Okay, I'm not sure, Abhadev, Habib, can you clarify that? Is that true in the CU?
Yeah, so see, each university will bring their own prospectus, and for example, in Delhi University, if you want to do BSc Physics Honours or Maths Honours or Chemistry Honours, then your scores in 3 subjects in the second category, which means you will have to attempt CUET for, apart from the main thing English, you will have to sit for Physics, Maths, Chemistry, and those scores, average of those scores will be taken for your admission.
Okay.
So it is not that you will get away with, not doing Maths or Chemistry and you can just move forward with Physics. So that
you're
is not
tested across the board on all subjects.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I wanted to clarify that because that didn't sound right to me. I didn't want to give out wrong information on the show. Rajpreet Kaur is another class 12 student. You're against this, but the UGC says that the CUET will save students from multiple entrance exams on different dates. You finish your boards, you have this entrance exam. You can't go on holiday. The entrance exams that coincide with each other. Don't you agree? Do I have Rajpreet Kaur?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, do you agree with the UGC? The UGC says it's actually helpful for students like you because you won't have to do multiple entrance exams to different colleges, options, etc. Quick response.
I think it's not like Kubat sir said that it is like based on. The policy is based on only the percentage would be taken only from the entrance test. But if we take our 12th board exams into concern, that it should be taken 50%. It would be beneficial for us if the 50% policy would be introduced, 50% from the entrance and 50% from our academics. Academics, because we have been we have the pressure to get good score, good marks in our class 12th exams.
Yeah.
So it would be really beneficial if just 50% would be introduced.
Sudha Acharya, I just want to quickly check. Now, the board exam marks, will that still be vital for admission to, let's say, some state universities, private universities? What about job applications? Are people going to be also looking at your board exams then? My point is, are these students going to have to focus both 2 high-pressure exams, or can they just ignore the board and just focus on CUET?
Tara, what has happened with this batch, particularly in 20, they have appeared for class 10 boards. In 21, they appeared for term 1. Now they are going to appear in term 2. In the middle of this exam process, at the fag end of the year, CUET is announced. So now students are very, very confused. Even though, I mean, we are all organizing orientation session with parents and students how to apply for CUET when they should focus on term 2 exam. I would say that board examination actually assess their domain knowledge, subject domain knowledge, which is very, very important. Now with CUET, student will be strategist, you know, how to crack one entrance test and go for higher education. So due to mismatch between demand and supply of higher quality, good institution, higher education institution, there will always be competition.
Yes.
So students are very, very confused. Even if they sit for CUET, a very good student is not assured that she or he will get of his or her dream college.
So I'm out of time. Mr. Kumar, Jagdish Kumar, you know, Sudhacharya has also touched upon this in an earlier answer. How can you say there will be no need to compete to get the cutoffs, because the supply of seats in colleges is not changing? All we're changing is this test. That continues to remain. This demand supply is completely warped. So won't that still continue?
Absolutely. You have clearly mentioned what the problem is. The problem is that whenever there is a huge competition for limited number of seats, there is bound to be a kind of coaching industry growing around that. But all that I'm saying is that more universities joining the CUET, the number of seats will increase from about 1.2 lakhs that we have in all the 45 central universities. If some of the best universities in the country also join in CUET, the number of seats will go into several lakhs. And the same set of students are applying to this increased number of seats. Therefore, the competition actually has to be less. I understand that everybody wants to join in number 1 or number 2 university. And globally also, we have seen huge competition for admission in some of the top global universities. And that's a natural phenomena. And just because there is a competition in a couple of universities, I think writing off CUET and saying that CUET will actually increase the stress levels of the students is saying something without really providing any data on this.
All right. Well, we'll know soon, and history will hold us accountable for these policies. Thank you all for joining us. This debate is not over. Of course, the question is, will the CUET only further the mushrooming of coaching centers? Will this enforcing such an entrance exam along with regular schooling lead to mental stress on students? Will it be more pressure, not less? All of that, those questions still remain unanswered perhaps. But thank you all for joining us tonight on We the People.